everyone. Thanks for joining another episode of Campfire. I am thrilled to have you all check us out. And today I'm with Kayla Miller. Miller or Myler? How do you pronounce your last name? Miller, I guess.
Miller.
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 Kayla Miller. So before we get to the introductions, I want to thank you all for being here. If you're watching, you're probably watching from either YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. These are the three platforms where we are streaming live. And you probably already know, but if you don't, you can ask your questions real time in the chat, wherever you're watching, the chat in LinkedIn, the chat on Facebook, the chat on YouTube. And Kayla and myself will go and answer your questions there. You can also, if you feel like it, you can actually join us, meaning you can actually click that link that I'm showing here. And you can join us using your mic and your camera, like you can do it on your phone, for example, or on your PC. And we actually can bring you live onto the stream, and we can have a chat if you want to. So that's another option that you have. Otherwise, just ask your questions online. We're seeing it here, and Kayla and myself will take the time to answer them. And I hope people are actually seeing it because I just had an error message when I pressed the go live button. So I hope it's working. Let me see if I can actually check that. Yeah, I see like some people are watching already. All right, so Kayla, it's a real pleasure to have you on the stream. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm just realizing I did not send a message to everyone on the general channel. Something I usually do. We'll do that right
Yeah,
after.
I was wondering
Oh,
about that.
exactly. I'm like, what? I just forgot about that. Let me do this real quick. Do your introductions, and now I'll make an announcement on the channel. All right,
Okay.
Kayla, welcome.
Thank you, Ludo. My name's Kayla, and I'm an instructor, a really new instructor actually, at New Camp. Um, I also have a freelance tutoring business on the side, and I'm a dog mom.
You're a dog. What?
A
A
dog
dog?
mom.
Oh, a dog mom. I thought you said dogma. I'm like dogma. What? Which dogma? You're a dog mom. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So you've been with us for like 6 months. I mean, since January. So it's pretty recent.
Yep.
But you have a very interesting and inspiring journey actually to get into tech yourself. And so you are like freelance right now. Is that pretty much you're self-employed?
Yeah. So I have an actual LLC registered under my name and everything.
That's pretty cool. So we'll get to ask you questions on that. So as I said, there's one thing I do usually is I let our audience on Slack know about those streams. And for this one, I don't know why I forgot to do it. So let me actually do that real quick. Channel, please. That's probably terrible. Um, Terrible production value to actually look away from the camera and type into the chat, but I really want to make sure that folks know that we're here on the Campfire show. This happening right now, and let me put the URL here. Campfire. There you go, it's done. So Kayla, let's start with the beginning of times, I will say almost. But actually, I've looked at your profile on LinkedIn, and I
Hmm.
was really, really impressed by the number of jobs that you've had in so many different fields.
Yep.
So do you mind actually starting maybe from the beginning and kind of tell us a little bit about all those jobs that you've had? And there is one that I want to ask you especially about, and it's the, okay, how is it called? It's the technic technical dress rehearsal technician. Or is it technical dress rehearsal technician?
Yep. TDR technician, technical dress rehearsal. Hmm.
So before we get there, because I have tons of questions on this one,
Okay.
tell us about, I mean, what was your starting job? Maybe start with your actually education first, and then what are the jobs that you got before getting into tech?
Sure. So My very first job that I had was actually at an entertainment center where kids would just kind of go and play. It was nothing tech related at all. But it was my first job and it, pulled money in for my car payment at the time. Um, Worked there for 3 or 4 years. I don't remember exactly. It's a long time ago. But anyway, I worked there basically until they closed down.
Oh,
And then
mhm.
from there, just kind of moved from job to job while I was in school. Um, right after high school, I immediately jumped into doing my associate's degree in information technology, where I took an intro to HTML and CSS class. And then from there, I took about a year break from school and jumped into my bachelor's degree in information technology with a concentration in web app development.
Oh, I see. So you have kind of a traditional education in tech. You didn't go straight to, I mean, you didn't do a coding boot camp, or you were not really self-taught. You really have, computer science background, undergraduate and bachelor degree in that.
Yes and no. So I have the degrees, but I've also been to boot camp.
Okay, cool. All right,
And
great.
I've done some studying on my own since I've been in the boot camp and since I finished my degree.
Okay, that's pretty cool. We have already a bunch of questions here. Um, Dimitri is asking, what kind of projects are you working on? And I think we're going straight into the fact that you're freelance and you have your own company.
Yep, right.
Um,
That
but
seems
I
like
think
it.
a lot of people really are curious about that. So, like, let's actually answer those questions right now. Like, what are the kind of projects you're working on? How? And yeah, I think this one is pretty tough. Where do you find clients?
So being a small business, and I'm literally the only person running my business. I'm wearing like multiple hats here.
Mhm.
Um, Generally just kind of word of mouth right now. Don't really have an advertisement budget yet. Um, Honestly, things have been pretty slow. I have a lot of openings right now for anyone who might be interested.
Mhm.
Um, Currently, as far as the business side of things, I'm working on my actual business website currently.
Yeah.
It's up, but it is under construction, so there's a lot of blank space currently.
Okay, gotcha. So, and you're saying otherwise it's word of mouth. Like, is it local customers in your city, or do you find people online as well? How did it work?
Online, so just in the various communities that I'm in.
Okay. Are you using Upwork? I know they've had tons of changes in how they allow freelancers to get jobs, but are you using any of those services? Fiverr, I hear, or anything
Nope.
like that?
So the thing with Fiverr and Upwork is that the business has to be or has to stay on Upwork. Like you can't like charge outside of Upwork or anything
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah.
it's all my own stuff. Like I'm doing it through um, Stripe and everything. So
Oh, I see. Cool. So you're integrating with Stripe, like we are. Perfect. And so I see another question, I think. Oh, Kothin. Kothin is with us. So Kothin has just realized very recently did an interview with Don the Developer. I think if you haven't seen it, check it out. I mean, really kudos for putting yourself out there. It's one of the most recent videos from Don the Developer where I mean, Kothin is going through a Fang type of interview. So check that out if you haven't. And congrats again for putting yourself out there. So let's talk about your journey. So you had several jobs. I really want to ask you about technical dress rehearsal technician, because
mhm.
for me it's like, are you making sure that the dress actually there's no dress malfunction? Is that what it is? That's what I'm going there already.
not
Like,
not
are you in
exactly.
charge of making sure that there's no dress malfunction, or what is it exactly?
So basically, I was contracted through a third-party service by a hospital local to me
Okay.
to come in with a team of other people and actually help them transfer from one medical record service to another medical record service. And so part of my job was to come in and basically test all the software like we actually had as if we had patients coming in using the software to make sure that there weren't any issues. And then once we made sure there weren't any issues, we went live with it. And we stayed a little bit after to make sure that everything was fine.
Oh, so that's the terminology dress rehearsal, which has nothing to do with dress rehearsal, but it's pretty much a dry run. It's like
Mhm.
running the migration like if it was real to make sure that there's no bugs and being actually ready for the real thing.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, that's pretty cool. All right, okay, that makes a ton of sense now. We have Caesar here. Caesar is another instructor with us. Hey, Caesar, thanks for being here. All right, so you work and at the same time you learn and you have you learn you get your bachelor in tech,
Mhm.
bachelor degree in tech. What brought you to tech? I mean, what made you want to join that field? And we all know, there's not enough women in that field. What made you want to join? And what would you maybe say to other individuals and other women who are like wondering about that?
Yeah. So, to be honest, at first, I did not actually want to go into tech.
Hmm.
I wanted to be a personal chef. Like, I
Okay.
had the whole thing planned out. I was gonna go to school to be a personal chef down in Florida, and I actually took a practical culinary test where so basically go in the kitchen and you're timed and you have to do certain things like with knives and make an actual meal.
Yeah.
And so I suffer with some strength issues in my wrists and it prevented me from passing that test. And so from there I was pretty discouraged about it and realized, cooking may not be something for me professionally, although I still do it a lot at my house.
Mhm.
Um, and so I kind of just started looking at other things I like to do, and I had always had this um, like I'd always been drawn to computers. My dad built them when I was younger, so I just kind of grew up around computers.
Oh, that's cool. He was building his
Mhm.
own PCs.
Yep, it was.
So you are so, and we'll talk about that. You're a gamer as well. Or
And
was your dad a gamer?
yeah,
Or
he
did,
games too. He does Xbox, so we're all Xbox family.
oh, okay. So you're gaming on Xbox, not on PC.
I would be gaming on a PC. I just don't have a PC gaming rig right now. That's in
Okay.
the works.
Yeah. Well, I know there was a big shortage of video cards, right? I mean, everybody wants to get one,
Yeah.
and it's getting better now, right? I mean, I think you can get a 3080 from Nvidia much more easier, much easier than before.
Mm, I haven't had a chance to look lately, but I
Oh yeah.
mean, it's got to be better.
So, and we'll talk about that. I want to know which game you prefer, which game you're playing right now. Um, so you're doing all that. You're learning. So you decided to go into tech because pretty much of your dad and his passion for tech and your passion for kind of seeing him, build computers. Um, oh yeah, Alaric says, he got his 3070 for MSRP. Nice, good, well done. That's pretty tough
Hmm.
to get that. So once you do that, what made you want to then join a coding bootcamp? And which one actually did you join? And how long after graduating did you decide to join a coding bootcamp?
So I actually joined the boot camp in the middle of doing my bachelor's degree.
Oh, wow.
Um, I had been working on the bachelor's degree for 3 years ish, and it was part time because I was also working, so I was just trying to balance out my schedule there. And I felt like I wasn't getting where I wanted to be fast enough, and also just I wasn't learning web development, and that's what I wanted to learn. And I'm like, why am I taking all these classes that have nothing to do with web development? And what am I going to do with this at the end? Like, I've not learned what I wanted to learn, right? And so I decided to consider doing a boot camp, and I contacted the one boot camp that I was interested in, and I talked to them, and then I took some time to mull over the decision, and I ended up picking Bethel School of Technology out in California.
Okay. Do they do their own curriculum, or because I actually don't know this one? Do they do their own curriculum, or is it something that Trilogy does for them?
So I believe when I was there, they were in the works of transitioning to their own curriculum. But at the time that I went through the boot camp, they were working off of someone else's curriculum.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's interesting because you joined a regular college or university with a track for web development, but you felt like you didn't really learn web development. Did you just learn more of a computer science, fundamentals like algorithms and data structures, and you were learning web developments then over there?
I mean, I did learn a little bit of web development, so like
Yeah.
C sharp stuff,
Yeah.
but the rest of it was all Java.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The
And
whole, yeah.
me and Java have a long history. Like,
Oh my God, it's
yeah,
crazy. But I mean, Java is still very much very number 3 or 4 language. But when you learn computer science in any university or college, they're always going to teach you Java. And now it's kind of changing, and they're going to teach you Python, but it's always Java. And Java is the worst program to learn to code. It's
yes,
just
it is.
terrible, just bad. But it's like before that, you will have. I learned computer science using C, not even C++,
Oh,
but C. But these are not fun languages to learn to code. But anyway,
no, they're not.
so so what would you say now that you've done both? You've done a regular bachelor, you've done coding bootcamp. If you had to drop one, which one will you not do?
Mm, it's really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is because
Why is
like
it tough? So what did you learn in each that you make you think like, yeah, actually you will do the same thing all over again?
I I guess if I were to drop one, it would have to be the degree because overall, going to the coding boot camp is what got me to where I am today with the business and being an instructor. Like, had I not gone to the boot camp, I wouldn't have known that I'm good at teaching and that I wanted to be an instructor.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's great. So I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile now, and so you've I think you finished your bootcamp in 2020.
Hmm.
So did you start right before the pandemic and then it switched to online or something like that? How did that work for you?
So the boot camp was all online.
Oh, okay.
Since they're out in California, I'm on the East Coast, so it would be
Okay.
kind of hard to go back and forth every day.
Yeah, yeah, I gotcha. So you were online no matter what. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Um, I think that may be one of your student. No?
Yes,
Do you know
Anthony
Anthony?
is one of my friends from BST.
Okay, cool. Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
So not a student. We have a question. I think, yeah, you're going to get a ton of questions being freelance. So what type of business do you have? Are you strictly web designing, or are you working on front end and back end sites with the customer?
So currently, the business is essentially private tutoring for full stack web development, so front and back. Um, I'm not designing websites for anybody, although I can actually teach a little bit of the fundamentals of design, mostly just because I've YouTubed it
Mhm.
to learn a little bit of that. But generally speaking, I like to stick to the web development for front end and back end.
Gotcha.
And this is teaching students and people how to make websites, not necessarily making the websites for a customer or business.
Gotcha. It's still teaching. It's very much focused on teaching others.
Mhm.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about the connection with Newcamp there because obviously you are teaching with us as well.
Mhm.
And I guess answer that question. What type of business do you have? You mentioned it's an LLC. Um,
Yes.
so you seem. I mean, what does it mean to have an LLC? How do you get to have an LLC? What's the benefits of having an LLC? Can you answer some of those questions?
Yeah. So um, basically, there's two kinds of businesses that you could actually have as a single person wanting to own a business. You do either a sole proprietorship
Mm.
or an LLC. Really, the only difference, and the way my mom explained it, because she has an LLC doing something different, is the LLC will protect you, the person, from being, legally obligated,
Mm.
um, or legally being sued by a customer. So it's honestly more red tape for someone have to go through to sue you versus the sole proprietorship.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think there's a few rules about protecting your assets as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
that too.
yeah. Okay, cool. So, oh wow, there's a ton of questions. Oh, I think this one is Rachel is asking, or maybe saying, "Ooh, that's great."
Wow.
I'm in week 2 of React Native. I've been so inspired by the amount of women in my class so far. 3/4 of the courses have 50% women. I have to check out our stats again because last I checked, we had like 30% participation from women. This is a
Hmm.
fantastic new data point for us if that's across everything. You've taught 2 classes, I think, for us so far,
I
Kayla.
have, yes.
What was the ratio in your classes of women versus men? Do you remember?
Um, I can't say specifically, but it's definitely more more men than
Yeah.
women.
Okay. All right. Um, and as you remember, if you want to join us, Kayla and myself live, you can join this link, mic and video on, and we can have a conversation live on this stream. So let's talk about your interest in teaching. I mean, you seem to be very driven by teaching others. You mentioned that your very first job was actually, I don't know if you, I mean, being with kids, helping kids, looking after them. Um, Tell us about that. Is that a passion of yours to teach others, and where is that coming from?
Yeah, it is. Um, sorry, it's a lot of pings. Um, um, anyway, so my passion for teaching came along when I started the boot camp at Bethel School of Technology. Um, I had done a little bit of practice on Code Academy before I started the boot camp, so I was
Mhm.
a little bit ahead of the curve. And so I started finding myself just helping my classmates through the week with their coursework and teaching and stuff. And I loved doing it, and I continued doing it throughout my entire time there. And I actually kind of just became known for doing that in my circle of friends while I was at BST.
Gotcha. And I can say it's funny how you started doing exactly the same when you joined our community. And I remember having a conversation with Mine, who's the person who's creating the curriculum for us and leading all those efforts. And she was like, "Have you seen that person, that lady, Kayla? Have you seen how active she is?" We were like super impressed, like seeing you on all those threads, chiming in, helping others. And I've been saying that to our students. The best way for you to be known and to actually make yourself known and make yourself noticed by others is to engage, right? Engage in LinkedIn, engage in discussion forums, engage like you've been engaging, to helping others. And that is actually the reason why you may actually being contacted by a hiring manager or a recruiter just because they're seeing you out there, right? And so you're doing that very, very well, I have to say. It's been really impressive.
Thank you.
And actually, there's a few people actually who wanna, Ado. Yeah. All right. Kayla, word. How about Michael? There you
Hey, I
go.
don't know if
Wow,
you
look at
can see
that.
it.
Oh my God, it's
The
pouring.
the text that you're pulling up for everyone's responses is really light against the white background. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Oh no,
I
you
don't
cannot
know if
see it.
many people can read that.
Really? It's working fine
Yeah.
for me. Interesting.
It's,
Huh? Can everyone see that? I mean, the way it shows on my screen, it's pretty easy to read, but interesting that it's showing differently for you.
it's really light for me. If it was any lighter, I wouldn't be able to read it. I don't have eye problems.
Oh, I think it may be a bug. So we're using Restream here. That may be a Restream bug. Oh,
Oh,
Rachel
it
is saying,
might. You know what? It might be me.
ah, is it? Rachel is
Yeah, it's
saying,
me. It's
okay,
me. I'm sorry.
what happened? What happened? All right, that's okay. So tell us a little bit about why did you join New Camp? What made you actually interested? And maybe actually start with how did you find us? How did you find New Camp? and why did you join?
So after I graduated from BST and I finished my degree, which actually I just finished back in December.
Mm.
So, I very quick turnaround from finishing degree to starting at New Camp. um, but I really wanted to go into teaching, and so I actually decided to apply to become an instructor or what they call a coding mentor over at Bethel School of Technology.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, they did not want to move forward with the hiring process with me.
Hmm.
And so I felt a little bit discouraged about it, but I still felt like teaching is something I'm supposed to be doing. And I want to say it was like a Facebook post or something. I don't really remember
Yeah.
exactly. Um, but yeah, I guess through Facebook, I found New Camp, and then I just went and was like, I wonder if they're hiring anybody. And so I put my name in and um, saw that you guys were doing a full stack bootcamp with Node.js and stuff at the back end. And I'm like, this would be perfect. I just learned this and all this in the bootcamp I went to. And
Cool.
yeah.
And so you joined. So you had two interviews, I think. One probably with Anuja, another with a tech recruiter, and then so you were able to come on board. So I've noticed on your profile that you really started to teach with us HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, something that you know pretty well. But now you actually the next course is going to be Node.js, so very much the backend aspect, Node.js, MongoDB, Express. What's the difference in your mind between those two classes? And I would say the underlying technology, you know, the front end aspect of it, and then the back end. I mean, lots of people still have some challenges in understanding how different they can be. What does it mean to you, you know, to go from front end to back end?
So in the simplest terms that I could probably say it, for me, the front end is what your client or your customer or your user is going to see. It's the
Yeah.
stuff they interact with, the buttons, the text, the navigation bar. The the back end just consists of the stuff that the user doesn't see, like the requests to the database that you made, to pull all of their information when they log in, or um, whatever goes on behind the scenes when you order a product from Amazon, that kind of thing, stuff that you don't see.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's it. And so how do you feel about teaching the back end now that you've started with the front end? How comfortable, how do you feel about that?
I'm feeling pretty comfortable about it. I really enjoyed the class when I took it at BST, although between now and then I'm going to brush up a little bit just so it's all fresh in my mind.
Cool. So we have another person, Andrea, commenting on how helpful you are. Um, Being helpful, I mean, that's a great statement that Andrea is doing here, because that's very much what I would say the mantra of New Camp is. At the end of the day, be helpful, right? And teaching is very much being as helpful as you can, teaching others, but being there for them at any time. All right, so let's talk about your gaming passion, your other passion, because I've seen some people asking for that as well. So you're gaming on Xbox. I'm a
Hmm.
gamer myself. I game a little bit as well. I mean, not as often as I used to, but what are you playing right now?
So I'm actually playing Dauntless on Nintendo Switch
Oh,
and Animal Crossing on Nintendo Switch.
oh, okay. So you're not playing on your Xbox. You're playing on the Switch. I don't
Yep.
Animal Crossing. I don't know those games. I thought you were gonna say Dark Soul, or no, not Dark Soul, the Elden Ring. Like everybody, you know, kind of is playing Elden Ring right now. Have you tried this one?
No, I have not.
No.
I don't really have much interest in it.
Okay, well, you actually, I think you're probably in the right. I've tried myself, and it's so frustrating. So, all right. So we're going to take another question from David here. David Ricketts. Huh. So great question about Node and Mongo. I was wondering, do you find it difficult to switch to .NET Um, so I think it's about switching from .NET to JavaScript in the backend. Since you learned C sharp, you were saying in at the university. What are your thoughts around switching from one technology to the other, and especially I think from .NET to JavaScript?
So this is actually a pretty interesting question because it's been posed in a myriad of different ways to me through the last several years. The best thing I can honestly say to anyone who's listening is start with one language first.
Yeah,
Just start with one and make sure you understand it and have learned it to the best of your ability. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to be an expert in it. Nobody's an expert in any language, but get really comfortable with it and then start adding in new languages one at a time. You'll find that once you understand the fundamental concepts of one language, those
hmm,
will apply to other languages. The syntax just looks different. It's just
yeah,
like learning a regular language. You're still forming sentences and words. It's just in a different language.
yeah. And it's very true. And some languages are going to be easier to learn than others.
Yeah.
I mean, JavaScript actually is not the easiest language to learn because of all the small traps that it puts in your way, like a semicolon that's missing, or the way it's managing variables and things like that. Um, but it's true. I mean, if you start with one language and really understand the fundamentals, for loops, variables, functions, passing arguments, it's very easy actually to then transition to another one. I would say Java is still harder to learn and understand. Um, we have a question here from Diego. Is New Camp all online classes? Yes, at this time we used to have in person on Saturdays, but we are fully online at this time. What we do though is we actually allow you to register in your city, and you're going to stay grouped with other people in your city. So if you can actually create a small, group of people from the same city, and you're going to be able to continue your journey together, even though everything is online at this time. Let me see. So tell us a little bit more about your business. First, why did you decide to actually go the freelance route versus, just finding a job and getting into a company over there?
Mostly just because I wanted the freedom of
Yeah.
working my own hours and making my own rules. Didn't really want to be pinned down with having to teach somebody else's curriculum the way that they wanted me to teach it
Mm.
versus my own style of teaching.
And did you think about just becoming a web developer, an actual developer in a company versus the teaching route, or where you really said that teaching was what you wanted to do, not necessarily actually being day to day developing or coding?
Yeah, so I just, as much as I enjoy coding on my own,
Hmm.
or even with a team when I get to do that, it's very rare these days, but when I get to do that, I enjoy it. But to me, I want to do something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And something that brings me the most joy that I would be teaching.
Mm.
Teaching brings me a lot of joy. Just seeing those light bulb moments that that happen with students when something finally clicks,
Yeah.
and I like being the catalyst for that.
Yeah. A lot of people who are teaching with us are talking about that click, that light bulb, what's all of a sudden a student finally understands something. And how much do you see that in the HTML, the first 4 weeks boot camp? Like when is that light bulb moment happening in that course?
So usually about the end of third week, beginning of fourth
Yeah,
week,
that's
usually.
right. Yeah, when we start to introduce JavaScript, and that's when it's like when it becomes very challenging,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden, beyond the challenge, people actually finally understand it. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, all right, so let me Let me check a few things here. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a private beta tester? What for the motion calendar app? What did that entail?
Yeah, so I did some testing on their calendar app. If you're interested in it, it's usemotion.com or usemotion.org or something like that. But anyway, basically, it's just a productivity application that lets you basically make a to-do list out on the side and then drag and drop your to-dos into your calendar and a whole bunch of other stuff. But that's kind of what the basic thing was back when I beta tested it.
Gotcha. And at the time, so you already had all the knowledge, of coding and everything. You finished, I think. Did you? Yeah, you finished your boot camp. What kind of skills did you apply when you were doing that testing? Or
So
tools did you use, I guess?
one of the main things that I utilized was the developer console
Mm,
and also just the, I don't know, intuition that I had on what could be causing some of the issues that I faced. It's actually quite interesting. When um, when people ask me to do beta testing and stuff, I'm like, "Are you sure?" Because I am a bug magnet. If there is a bug, I will find it.
That's
It's
cool.
not
Okay,
usually the easy ones
I may wanna
either.
ask you to help then. Yeah, so you're very detailed oriented, I guess. That's
Mhm.
what's happening. Yeah, pretty cool. So there's a conversation in the industry regarding what should bootcamp graduates do after they graduate, and what kind of jobs they should be looking for. And I'm of the opinion that being a QA engineer is actually a great first step into becoming a software developer. And QA engineer is quality assurance engineer, and it's about pretty much running tests on existing code. You had that experience. You have had that experience of testing a beta product. What would you? What are your thoughts? What is your point of view actually on people seeking QA jobs as well as full-time web developer jobs?
Hmm. That's an interesting question because I feel like I have a non-traditional like job entrance into the whole field. Like just going straight from college into teaching for new camp, just kind
Mhm.
of one of those surreal things. Most people are like, it might take you, up to 6 months to find a job
Yeah.
or whatever. But like you said earlier, it's also a lot about putting yourself out there. And you
Mhm.
can't be afraid to put yourself out there. And then when you get those rejections and you get those no's, because I've had a lot of them through the years of applying for jobs, you just have to pull yourself together and get back out there. Somebody's going to say yes eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've had I mean you're living proof of that when you described the first experience with your original plans to become a chef, um, and being able to really pivot and do something else. Andrea is making a point about my cat. That's magic that you saw the black cat. We also have a white cat. The name is Lupin, like Arsène Lupin. Um, all right, so what do you find? I have a question regarding, you've been teaching the beginner boot camp, and the beginner
Mhm.
boot camp at, at New Camp is really where we see a lot of people who are brand new to the world of coding, right? They may have dabbled in coding a little bit before, but many actually have not just yet. And this boot camp is really for them to kind of discover coding.
Mhm.
Um, what type of people have you seen in those classes? And I would say, what is your perspective on those students that are joining, um, that are discovering the world of coding for the first time? And if you had to describe them, if you had to kind of think about, their prospects, if you had to think about their ability to get a job at the end. What have you noticed? What are your thoughts on, people that are just starting and that you're meeting, every week, and teaching?
Yeah, that's tough but a loaded question.
That's pretty wide open.
Yeah, I've seen students from both ends of the spectrum, brand new to coding, don't know what they're really in for yet. They're just excited to be there on day one. And then I have, all the way to the other end of the spectrum where I have students that I'm like, you definitely had some experience before this. Like, I honestly can't sit here and say you didn't based on what I'm seeing in class. Um, as far as getting a job right after finishing the beginning web development boot camp,
Oh,
I'd say,
I meant more, in the future, their ability to continue. I mean, you probably cannot get a job after the first 4 weeks, but
yeah, I was
yeah,
gonna say, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you got a good
But you
start,
probably
but
do you see the beginning of, students that are showing potential to go through the end? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
do you find people like you're like, hey, if you continue this way, it's not going to work out, right? Like you talk about two extremes. I wonder if you how much you're seeing those extremes right off the bat, right at the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, so it's pretty about 60%. Um, I'm not entirely sure, and there's about 40% of them. I'm like, yep, they're ready to move on to the next part. At the end of my last cohort, I actually had several of my students reach out and ask me about moving on to the next boot camp because they had
Mhm.
initially just signed up for the beginning one and not
Yeah.
any of the other ones after that. And so the last class of the cohort, we took a little bit of time to discuss my thoughts because they asked me my opinion
Mhm.
on what track they should go, front end first or back end with Python first.
Yeah.
And so it was exciting to see at least a few of my students interested in moving forward.
Oh, that's cool. Well, share with us what are your thoughts when someone is asking you what should I do next? How do you address that? What's your answer?
So generally speaking, I kind of like to steer them towards doing the front end stuff first and
Yeah.
then to the back end because it's because that's how I learned. I started out the front end and I went to the back end, but also because going from web development fundamentals straight into Python fundamentals can be pretty tricky. It can mess with your brain sometimes because
Mhm.
especially if you've never done anything before this, web development class, 4 weeks for HTML, CSS, and like a week and a half of JavaScript, and then you're jumping into Python, which is a completely different language.
Mhm.
You really haven't given yourself enough time to let JavaScript sink in before you're introducing a whole nother language. And then I see students sometimes just get really confused and want to drop the whole thing because they're like, this is hard.
Yeah.
And I'm always, trying to be straight with my students. I'm like, coding's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it's that's the reason why there's so many people getting really good jobs, because it's a hard skill to gain. Not like, driving a car, where it's easy. You just follow the manual, you practice a little bit, and now you know. Um, yeah, it's a good point. I've never really thought about it this way. Like, really, you probably want to continue with the same theme of learning to code for the front end, for the web, and then move on if you want to learn a different
Mhm.
language. The way
But
we thought about it, I mean, the other way around was still trying to teach the fundamentals and actually using Python, which is a better language to teach the fundamentals in some ways, because the syntax is more straightforward. It's not
yeah,
as
I can get that.
punishing. Yeah. But it's a good point, which is, and I think when you go to our website, actually, we kind of give the options. It's like, okay, you could actually go Python for those reasons, but you could go to full stack for those other reasons, and there's
Hmm.
no bad answer in a way. But yeah, you have to think about what's going to be best for you.
Yeah.
Um, All right. So I want to ask you your plans for the future. So you're you've been extremely successful in finding a job, getting the learning that you wanted, finding a first job. You've built your first company. How do you see yourself in the next 2 3 years? Where do you want to go from there?
So I really just want to um, keep being active as an instructor with New Camp, but I also want to put a lot more focus towards my business and getting it up and where it needs to be. I've actually had the business for a little over a year. I just hit my year milestone in
Mhm.
April, and to be honest, I'm not really happy with where I am right now
Yeah.
with it.
So you need to spend more time on it. You need to. What do you think? So what do you think you need to do to make your business to be to be happier with where you are with your business? What needs to be done?
I think the number one first thing I've got to do is finish my website.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's about halfway there. Um, I guess the main thing I've run into with that is just not really knowing what to put on the front page.
Hmm.
Um, I can make my portfolio website or something else all day long, but when it comes to my business, it's like I don't know. I'm
Yeah. You.
not really sure what to put there.
You know what? It's a real skill to know what type of messages to put on a website. If you think about New Camp, very few of the words that are written on our website are my words. It's actually the words of a kind of a genius in the space, Shevas, who works at New Camp as the director of brand. But sometimes you need to find those skills, those people that really know how to write for the website and have the right messages out there. It can be very intimidating. I know I'm kind of like you. I'm always kind of intimidated when you have to actually present something, put something out there, not necessarily finding the right words or the right imagery. I mean, it's not just words; it has to be visual as well. What sort of
Hmm.
images do you need? And then the right layout, like how should it look?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's why there's designers are so important, but not just designers, storytellers as well. People that can really blend the visuals, the look and feel, the experience of a website with the written words that are on it. So I would say, don't feel too bad about kind of feeling stuck about that. Just reach out for people that know how to do that. Share your story, share what you want to see on the website, and you'll be surprised. I mean, it's actually great to see someone handing you over, the visuals and the words for your website, and now all you have to do is just code it.
Yeah.
Because then finally you feel like, okay, I'm making progress here.
Hmm.
So yeah, don't get stuck on that. Like seek someone that can help with that, and maybe someone who's watching today can help out, or maybe someone in the community. Maybe one of your students has actually that background. I mean, it could be a great side project as well.
Good
Caesar
idea.
has a question.
Oh,
Do you
all
play?
right.
Do you know the answer?
um, Honestly, just find a good group of friends and play. There's Magic the Gathering Arena, which is their online free client that you can download, play on your computer.
Yeah.
Or if you really wanted to, you could get into playing what they call paper magic, which is essentially you get the physical paper cards and you go to your local game shop and play Magic the Gathering with a group of friends. And it's funny because Fridays, actually right now, normally I would be playing Magic the Gathering with my boyfriend and some of his coworkers at our local game shop.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I don't play, but I have a friend who plays, and sometimes I'm invited, mainly for the drinks. I have to say. um, so uh, we only have 10 minutes left. It went very fast. I want to say a few words, if you don't mind, about New Camp. We just did something that I'm extremely excited about. This week, we announced New Camp for Business, which is kind of the next step for us to really help any individual and business to get into the world of coding. And really great. I don't know if you had the chance to see it yet. Maybe not. Did you see the what we did around in that space?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I saw that announcement.
cool. Um, and so what's quite interesting for us is anyone who's actually interested in joining New Camp, and 60% of our students usually are still employed, which is a big deal for us. It's also why we really made sure that we created New Camp the way it's created. It's to really enable people to not have to quit their jobs and still learn to code on the side. So 60% we found are still employed. And so now you can ask for your company to pay for the tuition. And the great news with that is, and that's something we discovered recently, there is a program from the IRS that's allowing any company to deduct the cost of the tuition from their taxable income. And so pretty much companies don't get taxed on that. And I think it works for LLC. I mean, you're on your own, but I think you could actually apply that to yourself in some extent. But what's even better, I will say, is usually, when companies pay for something of that sort for an employee, that is considered compensation. And so it's then taxed by the IRS, like it's part of your W-2 pretty much. Well, not in this case. So if companies pay for the tuition of their employee, it's tax-free for them, but it's tax-free for the employee as well. So it's not going to go into the W-2. It's not going to be perceived as, a benefit. And so not additional tax. So it's pretty much 100% tax-free. And it has a cap, like 5,250 a year. But without tuition, like 100% is covered. So we've been pretty happy to kind of announced that this week. We've had a few people already leveraging it. We're working with some companies who are taking advantage of it. So just wanted to make a shout out. If you're listening, if you're interested in joining, it's newcamp.co/business, and you can actually take that to your current boss and see if he's willing to sponsor you for that. All right, I think a few parting thoughts, maybe Kayla. What's on your mind right now? What do you want to talk about? I know your business is really important to you. What would you like to say to the audience regarding your business? If anyone is interested in learning more, maybe working with you.
Um, I would say, if you're interested, we can have a chat, free of cost for the first meeting, and see if we're the right fit first and go from there. Typically, I like to give a tailored game plan for teaching rather than a one size fits all, because not everybody learns the same way. I can't learn by PowerPoint, so why should I make anyone else learn by PowerPoint?
Yeah, no, that's great. And there's Mark, who's offering his help. I can help with your website, and after that, hire your services. There you go.
Oh,
See,
that'd be great, Mark.
I don't know if Mark is on our Slack or not. Um, do you want to? So how should Mark contact you? Actually, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I
Type it
mentioned
in as
earlier
well.
the website is up. So you could go to helpinghandcode.com, and there should
Let
be.
me let me copy the link. Actually, let me see if I can grab it from your. Yes, there you go. Visit website. Okay, let me paste the link here.
Okay.
Okay, do you want me to paste it? And it's under construction, right? So, folks, it's not finished. There you go.
Yeah, it's not quite finished yet.
Not finished. So, Mark, and so here you have support about, and so there's actually a chat. So maybe you can use the chat there. It's going to
Mhm.
go straight to you, I guess. All right. Hey, that was a really, really good time, Kayla. Thank you so much for joining this campfire. I think you have a really inspiring journey, and how you've actually faced adversity and how you've been told no or you can't, and how you've actually bounced back from that is really inspiring. I'm really, really thrilled that we have you in our community. You're so present for everyone all the time, it seems, almost. That is really it's really a blessing to have you there. And as we can say, as we saw actually during this stream, there's really a lot of people that are thankful for you helping them. So thanks again. Thanks, Kathleen, for joining. Thanks, Mark. And thanks, Kayla. Really appreciate that. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Ludo.
Take care.